friends, NotLink here. These are some parents that went crazy on their kid's wedding. My dad is pretending I am not getting married. So my dad has always been a show-off person. Announcements about grades, telling everyone how great his daughters are doing, telling off my sister for having a job he can't show off. When he divorced from my mom, he was a good parent for a while, and then he met Eva. Eva is way younger and has had a lot of work done and used to send him flirty messages when he was still married. They got married very early on in the relationship because they've known each other for ages. She told him not to text us too much because we're adults. She checks his phone all the time. She forbade him from seeing us for Christmas Day or St. Stephen's Day because he needs to be with his new family, and it would be disrespectful to her for him to see his ex-wife, and she's overall an absolute nightmare. And he follows everything she tells him to do. Now I'm getting married and I told my dad he's invited, but she's not. I've met the woman once and I do not like her. Plus, I know my father isn't a great person and he'd be making jabs at my mom about being older than Eva, etc. To make it fair, my mom's boyfriend is also not invited, although he's a sweetheart. My dad's answer to my invite has been to pretend nothing is happening. I sent him a save the date and he sent me a thumbs up emoji. What? He hasn't asked me one question about the wedding, not even the venue, even though he told me shortly before meeting Eva that he was looking forward to me and my sister getting married and how excited he was. Myself and my fiance are from different religions and cultures, so everyone's had a lot of questions about how we're handling that. Turns out, he hasn't told Eva I'm getting married, and he hasn't told anyone else, so he's just planning to say he has a work trip and come to the wedding. I don't think he's actually going to show up. I think he will say he is going to, and then not show up at the last minute, but my sister thinks he'll show up with her and make a whole scene because he told her Eva has just as much right to be there as your mom. Has anyone dealt with anything similar? Do I need backup to walk me down the aisle? Oh, this is a tough one. I personally haven't dealt with anything like this, but that is yikes. I think saying to your mom that her boyfriend also isn't invited is a pretty good middle ground. You know, it makes things fair between the mom and dad, and I think that's a nice way to go about things. What I don't like is that you mentioned your dad is a big show off and he loves to tell everyone about everything, but not your wedding. He's decided to keep this huge special moment for you on the down low, but instead he'll brag about grades and everything like that. Ooh, I have an update. So it turns out my dad ended up telling Eva about my wedding and telling her that she was invited to the wedding to avoid problems. She got herself a dress, booked a hotel, etc. My dad tried to convince me to invite her, but his biggest selling point was that he thought it'd be an amazing time to introduce Eva to my mom and my mom's whole family. Why would he think my mom would want to meet this woman is beyond me, and that she would feel excluded otherwise. He always rubs in our faces his new family, even calling them his new family. Keeps canceling every dinner he sets up with my sister due to some emergency involving Eva, or tells us to call Eva's mom. Both me and my sister are way beyond the point of calling some randomer mom since we are both moved out and he is being ridiculous. So let me get this straight. Your dad is telling you in an emergency not to contact him, but to contact his wife's mom. Right? He called me again and again trying to convince me and I said no, explaining that I knew the only reason he wanted to bring his wife to the wedding was to upset mom and that I wasn't going to let the two of them do that. He makes jab at my mom every time he's around her about how great his new wife is. You already told your mom's boyfriend not to come. I think it's only fair that she doesn't come, especially because you don't like her. You should be surrounded by people you enjoy on your special day, not some like crazy lady who's just wiggled her way into your family because your father thinks she's wonderful. And why is your father even pushing so hard for this? The fact that he is so adamant on having her there means that he's trying to make the day about him instead of about you. I thought the whole thing was over until I sent him some information about the wedding, and I guess he started feeling guilty and told us that he booked the flights for Eva as well. And he booked himself on the same flight as my mom. Changed his whole flight plans just so he could be on the flight with her, so that my mom and Eva could still meet. AKA, he could still rub his new wife in her face and try and screw with my mom's head by putting her down and making comparisons. And then Eva would just go off and shop while he was at the ceremony. I'm not sure if this is true or if he was just trying to bring her to the wedding and hope she didn't get kicked out. I'm trying to convince my mom to change her flight so he can't get inside her head 12 hours before the wedding. I don't know if I should uninvite him. That's a really difficult decision to make because, of course, he is your dad. And I'm sure your dad will always have a special place in your heart. But to have this turn into something that seems like he's trying to make it about him instead of about you, I don't know how I feel about that. I guess it depends on how important it is to have him at the wedding to you. If not having him at the wedding is going to solve so many of your problems and you're just going to feel better about it, then yes, although he is family, maybe uninviting him is the way to go. But at the same time, I totally get the fact that he is your dad and you just wish he would listen. I mean, I'm wishing he would listen and he's not even my dad. Oh, there's another update. Wedding has happened. It just took a bit of time to update because it's my life and it all went south and was too raw to try and write in a coherent way. Oh no. Oh, I feel so bad and I don't even know what happened. Spoiler alert, my dad got uninvited. I asked him to change his flight because he had specifically asked me what flight my mom was on so he could avoid her, he had said. And my mom was flying with my grandpa, so it would have been quite hard to change their flights to avoid him. My dad told me he'd change flights and that he'd invent some lie to tell Eva. He also said I was a horrible person for not believing him when he told me that he had not booked the flight out of spite, but he told my mom that he booked the new flight on purpose so that she could meet his new wife. And what reason would there be for wanting them to meet other than to be a jerk? I thought the whole thing was resolved, and my mom was really adamant that she wanted my dad to be there because I don't have a great relationship with him, and she knew it would have meant the end of my relationship if I uninvited him. Fast forward to 2 days after the conversation. My dad rebooked his flight and sent me a message to say he had changed flights, and that evening he calls me. I answered the phone and could hear someone screaming down the phone. Turns out Eva got her hands on my dad's phone, read the messages where I asked him to reschedule the flight, and she rang me shouting down the phone that I am unhinged. You're unhinged? I am a horrible person and I am messed up in the head. She said that I am so weird because in my 30s, I still talk to my parents. This one was really weird because I am meant to stop at a certain age. No, no, you're not. And that I'm jealous of the fact that my dad has a new life. I was very calm and said that I'm sorry she's upset and that the issues around my wedding aren't really related to her directly and that my dad was trying to upset my mom. I also said my mom's partner is not coming either, so it wouldn't be fair to have her there. She started shouting that my mom was a not very nice words. I absolutely lost it. In this whole thing, my mom has said nothing bad about Eva. I told her I never had any issue with her until now, but that she's a crazy, is super controlling, and that I was so glad I never invited her. Then I hung up because by that stage, it had been 2 minutes of her shouting at me, and I didn't feel like there was any point in talking any longer. The whole time this was going on, my dad was in the background saying feebly,
"Oh no, don't be mad,"
at her while she was shouting down the phone at me. What is with your dad? Your dad is supposed to back you up. Like, he's supposed to be your rock. He's the one that's supposed to set an example for, like, all men ever. He should be the standard, something that you would need to strive for, to look for in a man, not this guy who's trying to ruin your wedding and make it all about him. Anyway, next day my dad calls me and says that Eva was upset because he didn't tell her about changing flights and that I was awful for responding to her like that. He also said,
"Do you really think this is my fault?"
And I said, yes. And he said,
"Do you really refuse to take any responsibility? None of this would have happened if you had invited her like I asked you to."
And I said, does he actually think he has any say in my wedding when he didn't even ask me what type of ceremony I had? Never asked to see my dress or get involved in any way, monetary or otherwise. He asked me if he was still invited and I said, obviously not. Then he told me to be careful what I wrote in my messages to him because she was monitoring his phone, and I said I am not speaking to him again, so that won't be a problem. Well, the wife said that you shouldn't be talking to your parents after a certain age, and yeah, she certainly caused that to happen. The wedding was good. My mom walked me down the aisle and there was nobody there to cause drama. drama. So in the end, it all worked out for the best. Well, I'm sorry that the wedding didn't work out the way you wanted to, but I am glad that you made that decision because I think you would have been so much happier for it. Because if he came, and more importantly, if she came, it would have caused so much drama. And on your wedding day, that's the last thing you want. So as sad as it is, I think you made the right call. But now we've got a crazy mom. Should I be upset that my mom has tried to manipulate my wedding and even suggested I would get my dress from Shein? My parents are divorced and my mom has made multiple comments about my wedding and has tried to manipulate it constantly. For an example, she suggested my dad and stepmom were uninvited from the ceremony so that she could attend and then leave and they could show up for the reception. Who is supposed to walk me down the aisle? Right, so your mom wants to stay for the ceremony and kick your dad out and then leave so that they can come for the reception instead of being in the ceremony to celebrate your marriage with you? Okay. She also said I was inconsiderate because I wouldn't understand her point of view and that things happened between him and her. But since when was that my fault? Why am I being blamed for their mistakes? It's my special day, not theirs. For our wedding, we are still on the planning stage, but I saw a dress that I loved. PSA, me and my fiance have a decent salary and could afford the dress bought from a bridal shop. But I had a beautiful inspiration for a custom dress, and since I'm originally from Puerto Rico, but have been for years living in Texas, I thought getting it done by someone local back home would add that extra meaning to my special day. When I asked my mom if she would know about someone that could possibly make this come true, she suggested I look in Shein to see if there was something similar. Okay, first of all, you're saying that you can already afford a beautiful wedding dress. That I think is amazing. Congratulations, I love that for you. Not only that, but you want to get a custom one done. And she suggests Shein. Don't get me wrong, there's some nice things you can get on Shein, but a wedding dress when you wanted a custom one? Okay. Keep in mind, we are not struggling financially, so it's not like our goal is to find something extremely cheap. Not trying to hate on Shein, because I do buy regular clothes there, and they actually sell good stuff, but a wedding dress for probably one of the most special days of my entire life? This is what I was saying! Why in the world would your mom want you to get a wedding dress from Shein when you can afford another option? Has your mom ever bought anything on Shein? Because if not, then maybe buy her a wedding dress and see how she feels. It sucks that she would even suggest that, assuming I don't have the money to pay for a wedding dress, or if the dress wouldn't have any meaning and I could just find something cheap to wear for a day. That's actually a really good point. Your wedding day should be one of the most special days of your life, and of course it has meaning. You're getting married to the person you love and you're gonna spend the rest of your life with them, so the dress is an important part to a lot of people. And the fact that she is just suggesting you get it from Shein like it means nothing, yeah, I can see why you're upset. Prior to me getting engaged, she even said she wouldn't be attending. But since now I'm officially getting married, she feels she is obligated to go, not to be the bad guy, and has made me even think that she wants to say these things to get uninvited. Just because she feels bad, being the one that makes the decision of not being there, just not to see my dad in person. So you think your mom is purposely trying to sabotage her position in the wedding so that she can put the blame on you and say, oh, you uninvited me? That is absolutely wild. I hope my parents aren't that crazy when I get married. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.